To formally close the knowledge sessions for the day, we have Ashok, who's talking about the roles of various sectors in building the Equiverse. Ashok's profile is for everyone to see, very accomplished and an author. His book is up for sale, so you can buy a book and get the author to sign after he's done speaking. But what I got from Ashok is that he's a chess fanatic and has played for India. He's a classical painter, but is also a Hindi movies fanatic from movies from three and a half decades before I was born, from the 50s. And Sahib, Bibi and Gulam is his favorite. So, Ashok, can we have you formally close the knowledge sessions? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, ITSPA, for inviting me to this very important conference. I was looking at the mission and vision of Talentnomics to build a pipeline of women leaders, impactful, influential, possessed of agency, individual and collective agency. And I think that that's an outstanding vision statement that resonates a lot with me personally. Nearly everywhere that status, to achievement of that status, something comes in the way which is either very directly obvious or invisible, which is the agency of men. It's the men who come in the way, one way or the other, and this is happening throughout the world. You can see this kind of thing happening even in so-called affluent women who have succeeded very well in life. The agency or the stuff that gets in the way really is that invisible barrier, the agency, the attitude of men. Now, I don't want to say that men are the enemy. That's not true. In fact, that's a cardinal mistake one can make in programs such as this, to say that they are the enemy. They can very much be part of the solution. But let me move away from that to my remarks today. I wasn't here for the whole conference, but I dare say my experience of working with women is perhaps different. For the past 20 years, I have worked closely with two remarkable sets of women leaders. I worked for 10 years with sex workers all over India. And for the past several years, I've been working with some of the most marginalized, poorest women in India. These are the mothers and mothers-to-be in the most far-flung villages of India, particularly Madhya Pradesh right now, but also Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan and so on. Now you could see what is the similarity then. You're talking about sex workers, we're talking about village women. This is so distant from the places we live in Delhi and in major cities, or even in smaller towns. What is the similarity really? I think there's a tremendous similarity, which is that the underlying issues are the same. No matter where the woman is located, the type of things that come in the way, and therefore the types of solutions are essentially very, very similar. It's just been my great good fortune that I've had that opportunity in the last 20 years. Let me therefore just share my own story with you briefly, because I know this is the end of the day. I spent a lot of my time in a place called McKinsey & Company, which is one of the world's, if not the world's, leading management consulting firm. Now, when you're paid a lot of money to solve someone else's problem, what comes with that inevitably is a kind of arrogance. And it's an arrogance that McKinsey people are very good at trying to disguise, but they really don't. It's not a place that is overflowing with women. The ratio of people who join are probably around 50%, and the actual numbers of women who succeed and come to the top are very, very small. I wouldn't hazard a guess, but when I was there, it was very, very small. What really happens there? Now, this is not a sort of diatribe against McKinsey, because I use what I learned in McKinsey every single day. And so it's nothing to do with that. It's part of the whole story. So, to continue with my story, I left McKinsey 20 years ago, 2002, because I had an offer I couldn't refuse. It was an offer to create a program called Avahan to work with sex workers, really to stem the growth of HIV in India. Now, I came in, as you might guess, a fairly arrogant person. I think the last 20 years have been a process of being reborn, which has not completed by any means. Because I went straight into that meeting with sex workers in a I wrote a book before this called A Stranger Truth. It starts with this. A meeting in a very barren field somewhere in Visakhapatnam. And over the course of that day, that was the first time I realized that there's a completely different India that exists today, a completely different world. It had been far beyond my conception that such an India even exists. And in the course of the day, I met several women who were different types of sex workers. I met very young women. I met all women who were almost children. I met very old women, I mean about 70 years old or more, who were in sex work. And as I went around, my head was spinning. And I went into a room which had about 25 sex workers there waiting for me. And I suddenly found I was very nervous because they were waiting for me to speak. And suddenly I felt very nervous in this group of people who supposedly were very marginalized. And so I stammered out a couple of words which is say, you must use condoms or you'll die. So I went on a little bit about this and the hazards of HIV and how protected sex was essential. Then one voice came up and said, "Sir, why will you not ask us something we don't know? We are in the business of condoms. That's our trade. No one has to tell us about condoms." So I was very embarrassed. I was shaken. Then she said, "Why don't you ask me the real question, which is why don't you use condoms?" So that struck me and I said, "Why don't you use condoms?" So she gave me an answer which I would never have guessed. She said, "Because of violence." And I said, "What about violence?" She said, "Every transaction between a man and a woman in the context of what we're talking about involves violence. The man wants unprotected sex. The woman wants to have protected sex. She tries to tell him the risks of doing all of this, and it ends up in a slap, in a burn, in a cut." And I understood then the connection. What she was trying to teach me was that the answer to a question is not what you expect. You have to see it from the shoes that the other person lives in. And this is the attitude of a man. And this is the attitude of many people in power. I dare say there can be an attitude of women too, that we can tell the other person what that is. And so I learned my first important truth, because I was to work with women for the rest of my life as it's been, that if you talk to the women who are most marginalized, the poorest and supposedly the weakest, about what the problem is, they will give you the best answer because they live with the problem. Isn't it logical? The person who lives with the problem knows the root cause of the problem. And if you ask why again, they will give you the solution. And if you ask why again, it will be implemented perfectly. So Avahan became a program that within 2 to 3 years was and is still the biggest HIV prevention ever done. Some 100,000 women worked on it together across 6 states in India. The HIV prevalence rate in India is today lower than that in the United States. It's a much heralded story how the women of Avahan, the sex workers, averted more than 600,000 infections. So I went on from that to create Antara, which is the program I run today with my own NGO, because the thought struck me that if sex workers are so smart as to do this, surely we can work with pregnant and lactating mothers in very remote, far-flung villages of northern India. And that's how I started with Antara. And today we are working in Madhya Pradesh. And it is the same story. In my book, I depict a scene, as the opening scene, of a mother who's holding her dying baby to her breast. Her face is covered. And she cannot go for treatment, which is hardly a mile away because her father-in-law would not allow her to leave the house. This is the status. Luckily, that things had a good ending, if you want to call it that. Why did that situation come about? Father-in-law decided what would happen at home. Her husband was powerless to do something about it. The mother-in-law didn't really care. She said, girl, babies are in any way a curse. So it is a complex situation. How are we working on this, and why are we on, I like to think, a pathway which will lead to a good place? Because we stopped telling those women that you must breastfeed exclusively. You must take care of yourself in the antenatal period. These are all things any mother-to-be can guess, however poor, however uneducated she may be. We have to ask, why doesn't the woman do all of that? And why is there such a strong influence of women here? The only way that women can deal with this, it's the same thing. Ask those women, why does this happen? Ask those women, what can be done? Today we are running a program where the women in hundreds and soon thousands are coming together in different states, in different districts. They're forming groups. This is not your typical self-help group. These are gatherings. These are loose. These are 8 places in the village center which are spaces where women can come and go. What happens is that they discuss their problems, they arrive at solutions, they implement solutions. The people who work with them are a large force of volunteers. The volunteers are largely very young men, 17, 18, 19 years old. So this is another thing. Men are not the enemy. I don't have to tell this group that. I don't need to lecture that. But in many forums, statement after statement is that men do this, men do this, men do this, let the women do this. That is a very simplistic solution. I'll end by saying, if you ask me what have I learned in 20 years, I'll repeat myself. It is a profound truth to me. It is profound because it is forgotten by funding agencies, it's forgotten by, seems to me, anyone who's in public health, that the answers will come from the so-called victims, the most marginalized women in the world. And they will be the ones that solve the problem. Now, it's easy to sit here and say that was an interesting guy. At the end of the day, he spoke about marginalized women in remote villages. What's that got to do with me? It's got everything to do with us. Because our situations are, and I'm using the word our, I like to think I'm probably as much a woman as anyone in this audience, because I lived that life, right? So what prevents us from getting in the way? To me, this whole process is having humility taught to me by rubbing my nose in it, by knowing how insufficient I was as a human being, having spent my life in this place where the smartest people in the world solve problems. These are the people who can solve real problems for you. Now I'll end with, this is not a pitch to sell my book, please, I'll tell you in advance. But it is a book, which some of you have got copies, is worth reading for a simple reason. The entire message of the book is this. This is the entire message. And wherever I get a chance to speak at a forum, I try to convey this message. I dare say the book does that. It is the story of Antara. And for what it means, if anything, the proceeds of this book going entirely back into a children's fund. We don't take any royalties. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it a lot. I hope the words I spoke are not going to make anyone sad, because I mean it as a message of great hope, really, for women. Thank you so much. Yeah. Did I leave some time left over? Then I can take some questions from the...
If there are any...
Nobody's going to speak, then I will. Please. I'm going to embarrass him. It's been a long time since, it was what, 40 years since college? So this is Sanjay Kathuria, Choki. So, no, I'm not going to embarrass you. I think you've done this is absolutely inspiring, what you have outlined to us, a glimpse of your life, and thank you for sharing what you have with us. And I mean, in a sense, the previous session on urbanization and urban spaces, I mean, I was just applying your dictum or your lesson to that one, and this is what, in a sense, fundamentally came out of that as well. If you really ask the women what are good urban spaces, then you will get your answers directly from them. You don't have to go to any experts. Yes, the experts can do the tuning and the design part of it, but what they need is absolutely, it'll come from the horse's mouth, as it were. So, nothing but kudos and congratulations, and hope you're still doing, Pawn to King 5 and, PH5, whatever you guys call it. Thank you so much.
It's nice seeing you again. Somebody could also ask what gets in the way of women in our society doing that. It would seem very simple. But, there's this notion of agency. Women have to get together in groups to do that. And I think it's more difficult at the top of the pyramid to do that, because we have so many other things to do. Where is the space? So we can say we should do this or we should do that, but where's the time and the space to really organize beyond forums like this? And whereas if you're acutely poor and your baby is dying at your breast, it happens very naturally. So there's another dictum, it's the poorest of the poor who are most equipped to solve some of these problems. It looks like I'm talking about Zen kind of philosophy, but it's the fact.